Welcome to Could It Exist in Real Life, where even comics can get you if given the chance. Well, I said I was going to do something new and I meant it. As I already stressed enough, I'm a fan of Stephen King. Now that I've taken a moment to hear Meyer fans scream in rage and agony, let's get to it. Now, what happens when you get one of the most iconic horror authors, team him up with the godfather of zombie movies, and have the man that created the face of Jason Voorhees twice mixed together? You get the campy, macabre, yet comedically charming Creepshow, a horror anthology series that serves as a tribute to the old EC comics such as The Vault of Horror and Tales from the Crypt. This was created in collaboration with Stephen King, George A. Romero, and Tom Savini. Because this has 5 stories and 2 bookends, spoilers ahead. The movie starts with a father abusing his son over the titular comic the movie was named after. After throwing it in the trash, the comic mysteriously comes to life and tells us, the audience, 5 ghastly tales of horror. The first story is called Father's Day. The Grantham family anxiously wait their oldest, Bedelia, for an annual dinner. While it's also on the titular day, it's also the anniversary of her father Nathan's death. Nathan was probably the worst rich man in the history of American movies. This guy would give Mr. Potter and Scrooge a run for their money, no pun intended. But his worst crime was having Bedelia's husband killed in a hunting accident. It comes to a head on Father's Day when he demands Bedelia make him a cake. She finally snaps and bashes his head in with a marble ashtray. Upon visiting his grave, Bedelia discovers to her horror her late father coming back from the dead demanding his cake. One by one, the Grantham descendants fall into the hands of this pastry-hungry corpse. I myself would have just pointed him to the nearest bakery. The second is called The Lonesome Death of Jody Verrill. Based on the short story Weeds by King, it revolves around a local hick played by King himself. I'm not even kidding about that. He discovers a meteor a la the Blob and accidentally busts it open, causing his farm and himself to be slowly covered in a mysterious plant-like parasite. The third is called Something to Tide You Over. Leslie Nielsen stars in this one as Richard Vickers, a wealthy psychopath that discovers his wife Becky, played by Galen Ross, is having an affair with Harry Wentworth, played by Ted Danson. He takes it better than the wives from Cheaters, and by that I mean he actually does something other than scream at them. Instead, he buries the two up to their necks in beach sand. Now, before you Leslie Nielsen fans say, "Oh, that's so Frank Drebin," it's not as funny as it sounds. For he buries them close to the shore and waits for the tide to slowly drown them to death. Of course, being a King and Romero collaboration, it doesn't last long, for the couple rises from the dead to enact their revenge. I call bullshit on Romero for breaking his zombie rules, as Sam Malone survived getting a headshot. But it's not part of the Dead series, so I let it slide. But it's fun to see what Francine as a zombie would look like. The fourth story is called The Crate. It revolves around a college professor named Dexter Stanley, whose custodial friend Mike discovers a crate that was shipped from Antarctica to the college 148 years ago. Upon opening it, they discover a mysterious monster inside which proceeds to kill and devour poor Mike. After it kills a student along the way, Stanley goes to his friend and colleague, Henry Northrup. While Dexter is worried he might be blamed for the murders, Henry sees it as a golden opportunity to kill his wife, Wilma Billy Northrup, who is constantly drunk and emotionally belittles him every chance she gets. Even at some points, he imagines himself killing her on 2 separate occasions. The fifth and final story is called They're Creeping Up on You. It revolves around wealthy billionaire Upson Pratt, who just found out his hostile takeover caused the death of his Target company's former CEO. However, that's not quite important, as he has a more mundane problem. For in a supposedly germ-free environment, he's being plagued by Paraplaneta americana, or the American cockroach. Paranoia increases as bad as the problem surrounds him in every empty corner it could find. The movie then closes with 2 garbage men taking the comic book, while the son in the opening tortures his dad with a voodoo doll he is sent for before his comic was thrown away. Now for the fun part. Could it exist in real life? First off, Father's Day. Now, as stated in my Night of the Living Dead series, there is no proof of the dead coming to life. Yet. However, the methods on which Nathan came to life do exist in legend. How? A little lesson in etymology. The Gaelic Irish word for whiskey was called Ushkaba, which means water of life. It was based around the old Irish folk legend song called Finnegan's Wake, in which the titular man in the song, drunk off the creature, falls off the ladder and breaks his skull. At his funeral, the attendants get rowdy and drunk and spill whiskey on his corpse, bringing him back to life. What does this have to do with the first story? Well, when Bedelia was visiting Nathan's grave, she spilled whiskey on the precise spot in which he was buried. Hence why he didn't come to life in the other times she visited his grave on Father's Day. This factor also contributes to Wentworth and Becky's resurrection in Something to Tide You Over, as they were doused by actual water. Not just any water, but salt water, which has been known for their various mystical properties in other mediums. For Jordi Vero, while this particular plant has not been discovered yet, there does exist plant life on other planets aside from Earth. According to Space.com, a planet that was discovered to be the real-life equivalent to Tatooine, 2 suns and all, was also host to a species of black plants, which contrasts the traditional green plants on Earth. Then we have the crepe monster. Many accounts both in and out of the story debate whether or not it's a Yeti or a Tasmanian devil. However, as for what species actually it is, it's inconclusive. But after looking into it, I discovered that this particular creature is one of 14 unidentifiable Antarctic animals that was taken from H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness. So until I prove any of Lovecraft's monsters exist, I'm making this one as inconclusive as well. But it does explain, despite being a carnivore, how it's able to survive without eating for 148 years. Then there's Upson Pratt's cockroaches. This was a combination of 4 separate concepts: science, karma, fear, and revenge. For the science part, the building which Pratt resides in is New York City, which is known for being the largest cockroach population in the world. The karma part is obvious. Pratt screwed many people over and stomped on them like bugs. Now the bugs stomp him. As for revenge, it was heavily implied that Mr. White, the building superintendent, and the wife of the man he drove to his death, let in the cockroaches. Or at least a select few that had time to breed. As for the fear part, it was fear that caused him to have a heart attack and die from the result. He's an old man with a natural phobia, after all. If any other person was less phobic of bugs, they would have handled it in a more professional manner. Last but not least, there's the voodoo doll kid. Whilst voodoo does exist in real life, the concept of voodoo doll is debatable. However, the kid himself has the power of horror on his side. Why? Because that kid is none other than famous author Joe Hill. But back then he was known as Joe King, the son of the King Man himself. Meaning that, like King himself, any cameo he's made brings misfortune to other characters, especially when said character physically or verbally abuses the king. As usual, debate, argue, let me know what I missed. Stay tuned for more.